my papers, I have to go into another tab to get them, and when I do, because I'm on my tablet, my video will freeze. So if it looks like I'm being abnormally still, that's why. You'll still be able to hear me. Right. So. Sorry. Okay. Right. Apologies. Item 1, apologies. Do we have any apologies from anyone?
Yeah, Councillor Watler and Councillor Howells.
All right. Declarations of interest. To receive any declarations of interest and written requests for dispensation, members are invited to declare any disclosable pecuniary interests and other interests of items on the agenda required by the Ledbury Town Council Code of Conduct for members and by the Localism Act of 2011. Does anyone have any interest to declare?
None from me.
All right. Item 3, public participation. We have, of course, had some questions from a group of residents regarding costs being incurred by the viaduct appeal. 6 questions in total. Shall I read them all out, or?
Could we go through them in turn?
Yeah, all right. So the first one is simply how much more?
Okay, so as chairman of the inquiry group, can I make some attempts at answering these questions? First of all, I want to say that I'm quite happy that Ledbury residents are asking these questions. They've got absolutely every right to ask these questions, and I hope that we can answer them fully. So first of all, how much more? Now, I'm taking that to mean that how much more than we've already voted? Well, we voted 90K for this project. And so far, the costs have come in at 78K, but we have a further anticipated cost of 21K. We believe that the total additional, therefore the total cost will be around about 100K. That's not absolutely accurate. It might be plus or minus a little bit on that, a few percent on that, but around about 100K. So what that means is above the 90K, how much more? Well, it's about 10K.
All right. The second question is how much a day is it costing LTC?
Okay, there are 2 answers to this question. If we take, okay, so we take the number we're going to spend about 100K on this inquiry. The inquiry so far has lasted 5 days. It's scheduled to last at least another 4, possibly 5 days. Let's take that as 10 days at the inquiry. So 100 divided by 10 is 10. It's costing us 10K per day if you take it as days of the inquiry. However, another way of calculating it would be to say, well, how much has it cost us since we took up Rule 6 status? Well, we took up Rule 6 status in March, approximately. The whole thing should be over by the end of September. So that's 7 months. Now, 7 months at approximately 30 days per month gives us 210 days. So the approximate cost per day of this inquiry is about £500 if you calculate it like that.
All right. Third question is not actually phrased as a question. It is the statement, no guarantee LTC will win, which, yes, is how legal proceedings work.
Okay, no, there is no guarantee that we will win. This is an inquiry. We may not win it.
Right. The fourth question, if no win, if Ledbury Town Council doesn't win, will LTC have to pay costs?
Okay, so as far as I understand this, award of costs are not automatic. In order to gain costs, Bloor Homes would have to prove to the inspector that Ledbury Town Council had behaved unreasonably in the course of the inquiry. Well, we don't believe that we have behaved unreasonably, although I have to say that Bloor Homes have launched, will be requesting the inspector to award costs.
All right. Question 5. Will Councillor Bannister pay everything back, or will the people of LTC, as with the, in quotation marks, judicial review, have a larger increase against their precept increase / increase in our council tax? Somewhat
Okay.
of a leading question there, and one that's not so much a question.
Well, I think Liz wants to speak.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, it was to the last point. Just to say that that Bloor have requested that the inspector consider awarding costs against Herefordshire Council and Ledbury Town Council.
Yes.
So I don't know whether they're considering us jointly and severally liable, or whether they are, you know, going to make some argument that there's some apportionment of blame. But yes, it's against the award of costs has been requested against both of us. But Councillor Bannister's reply in terms of there needing to be some evidence that is accepted that both of us have behaved unreasonably, and that will be down to the inspector to consider that.
Right.
Okay,
So, any response to question 5?
Yes. No, Councillor Bannister isn't going to pay anything back. But just to clarify on that, I know that I did propose make a proposal to the Town Council that we take up Rule 6 status. I made that proposal, but in fact, it was voted through unanimously by the Council. So it's a unanimous decision of the Council to take up Rule 6 status. So I hope that clears that up. Now, in terms of the judicial review and its increasing council tax, as far as I understand it, and I'm not an expert on this issue, the recent increase in the precept that Ledbury Town Council have made was really forced on us by an advised correction we had to make to our accounts. Now, maybe there's somebody in a better position here to explain that.
I'm sorry, I had some connection issues there. I didn't hear the last part of that.
Well, what I said was that I don't believe that the increase in the council tax, the precept, the Ledbury Town Council precept element of the council tax, I don't believe that that increase was related at all to the judicial review. What it was related to was the advice we received from our auditors that we should correct a procedure in our accounting system, which led to it. But I'm not an expert, so I would suggest maybe somebody else can answer that question.
That was my understanding as well. That was.
Councillor Harvey's got her hand up.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Well, not wishing to divert attention from the substance of the question, which is whether or not the ratepayers of Ledbury will be in some way responsible for the costs. The consequence of the judicial review, and similarly with this action, is that the Town Council incurs exceptional costs. costs that were not entirely budgeted for, or at all budgeted for, in the judicial review case. As far as this is concerned, we did have some funds that we had set aside for professional fees associated with maybe having to defend this or other actions. So there is an element in the budget that was provided for last year for this. We also have been able to use some of the funds that were underspent last year, which I guess we'll come on to in terms of the outturn for the council for the last year against its budget later on in this meeting. So that the costs to the council are what they will end up being. We have been seeking to minimise them at every opportunity, and indeed, of the 4 expert witnesses, witness areas that we've got, 2 of them are actually being covered free of charge by councillors, one by me and one by Councillor Howells. So we're only paying for half of the expert witnesses that we're submitting to the inquiry. So we are doing everything we can to minimise the overall cost. But there will be a cost to the council. We will attempt to minimise its impact through use of reserves or underspends in year, or making provision in future years. An event like this is it's unreasonable to assume that it's something that we recover costs against in a single year. And in the same way as with the judicial review, there's a plan to recover the costs from that over 5 years. So that is something that's built into the precept, but that actually means it's quite a small amount of the amount that people pay every month for the town council running costs. And we've also got an item on the agenda here where we're going to be looking to see whether it's possible to recover costs on this, but we'll have to take advice on that. But I'd like to assure members of the public, and I'm sure everybody involved with the review, is that we're doing everything that we can to minimise the cost of this. And indeed, we argued very strongly when it was suggested that we had the inquiry online, that was both inappropriate, and that the time that the Planning Inspectorate was allowing for the inquiry wasn't appropriate, that they weren't allowing enough time to actually go through it. So some of the costs that we're likely to incur as a council, and indeed the other parties involved, will be as a consequence of not properly setting the right amount of time aside to do this, and also the nature of the inquiry being held online, which is slowing everything down. I think anybody who went online to actually watch what was going on, there are big delays while people are having to find electronic document references and to refer to documents that they don't have immediately in front of them, because the document repository is so large and everybody's having to work with electronic papers, except for Bloor, who are all sat in a room together at Tewkesbury. So we're doing what we can, but there will inevitably be a cost. But what we'll do is try to minimise its impact on any uplift in the precept that comes about as a consequence of it, and that itself is not guaranteed. It may be that we can find ways to cover that within our existing cost base. Long answer, sorry.
It's fine. It was a good answer. And question 6: is money being taken from LTC money's reserves? If so, what is the town going to have to do without, as these certain few councillors seem to be using the town's money like water? As
Okay. Okay, so is money being taken from Ledbury Town Council and monies reserved? I understand there is an element of this cost which is being taken from reserves. And what does that mean? Well, okay, we're going to be spending 100K on this. So we've got 100K that we haven't got to spend on something else. So that is true. If we spend 100K on this project, we haven't got that 100K to spend on something else. That is true. But then to say a few councillors seem to be spending money like water, I can assure the residents of Ledbury that the last thing I want to do is to waste their money. I really don't want to do that. But let's face it, this inquiry has come about. Don't forget, Ledbury Town Council didn't want to take up any rules and regulations. We had to do because Hereford Council decided not to defend their rejection of this proposal. And Ledbury Town Council were faced with a situation where we have over 400 letters of objection to this development from local residents. And we had a poll, we had a parish poll, which voted 95% of people voted that the proposed access solutions were not acceptable. So what could Ledbury do? What could Ledbury Town Council do? We have to defend what the people of Ledbury think and what they want to do. And at the end of the day, if it's cost us £100,000 to defend this and we win, well, we will have saved Ledbury from long queues, which would damage our economy, long queues, which would be there forever and a day. So I think it would well be worth it. If we lose, okay, I know Ledbury Town Council, we're going to come in for some criticism, but we have done what we've done because we felt that we were defending what the people of Ledbury wanted us to do. That's my opinion.
yes, and I would heartily endorse that entire sentiment. All right. Public participation done, unless there's anything, unless you'd received anything else, Clark?
No, nothing else.
All right, thank you. Item 4, terms of reference. Now, due to, where is it? Sorry. Sorry about this.
You have got terms of reference in your pack, haven't you? So I haven't got it.
No, I don't either.
Well, I think it goes
straight to the minutes after the agenda itself.
Sorry about that. I think they've not been added. Apologies. I think the decision is, the suggestion is that you defer them anyway for conversation with the corporate plan.
Yes, that was my understanding. Do we need a vote on that, or can I just defer them?
Well, you haven't got them, so I think you're going to have to defer.
Yeah, okay. Well, deferred. Right. Item 5. To approve and sign as a correct record the minutes of an extraordinary meeting of the Finance Policy and General Purposes Committee held on the 18th of June 2020. I've read over the minutes and I can't find anything substantive that deviates from my recollection of it. Anyone else? All right, Ben.
I propose we accept them.
From the chair, seconded. All those in favour?
Can I do a?
Oh, right, yeah, of course.
So, Councillor Bannister?
Yes.
Councillor Eakin?
Yes.
And Councillor Harvey?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, that's approved. Financial matters, to approve invoices for payment from April, May, June and July 2020.
Can I just say, apologies, items number 6 to 9, I had hoped to get these to you, but due to staff shortages and having to get somebody in at short notice to help cover this, I've not been able to produce any of these reports.
All right, that's perfectly understandable. So shall I just skip over them and we'll deal with them when we can?
Yeah, I will
Okay.
get Councillor
Yeah.
Harvey wants to speak.
Yes.
I'm just checking. Do we need to plan to do the approval of these another way? Is this going to hold up payments?
No, I can still do the payments. That's fine. I'll produce the payments. I'll have to produce them as invoices paid because I have got a lot that need to be done. If you're happy for me to do that, I can do that and produce them as a invoices paid report instead.
Okay. Chairman,
Yes.
could I? I'm sorry, I'm going to have to say it. Can you please not eat during the meeting, or if you must for medical reasons or whatever, can you do it off camera?
Okay. Sorry. All right, skipping over items 6 through to 9 then. To receive year-end reports from the 31st of March 2020 to include the annual return.
Which pages have we got for that?
It starts on 8:30.
8:30 to
okay. Thank you.
8:30 to 8:46.
Thank you. Okay, and we can use rotate view on this to get the pages looking the right way round, so that we don't crane our necks. Okay.
So just to make you aware, there seem to be some pages. Okay. The audit this year has been extended. The deadline date has been extended to, I think it's the 1st of September. So although we are later than we would have been, than we should have been, had it been the original date, we are in plenty of time to get these sorted by the 1st of September. The reason that the date has been delayed is obviously COVID restrictions have caused a lot of difficulty for people to get information, to get their year end done and to get their information to their auditors without the auditors coming into the building and things like that. So they've made allocations for that, allowance for that to be extended.
All right. Does anyone have any remarks before we receive this?
I think, you know, could I suggest that it's, I mean, it might sound a bit tedious, but that it's actually worth reading out the questions and the answers that have been addressed by the auditor on page 832 and 833, just to go through what has been examined, so that you know, we're clear. I wouldn't bother. It's just that some of the questions, most of the questions, yes, is the good answer, but some of the questions, no, is the good answer. And I think for clarity, it's probably worth, because we haven't got, you know, sort of a red and green kind of colouring on here to indicate whether things are good or bad. It's just worth going through and reading them out. You know, we can spread the load a bit, if you like, in terms of taking it in turns to do the numbered questions. just to keep everybody involved. But this is a once a year thing, and it's quite important, I think, that we acknowledge what's been gone through here in some detail.
All right then. Question 1A. Is the cash book maintained and up to date? Yes. Question 1B. Is the cash book arithmetically correct? Yes. Question 1C. Is the cash book regularly balanced and reconciled to the bank? Yes. Question 2A. Have standing orders and financial regulations been formally adopted? Yes. Question 2B. Are standing orders and financial regulations regularly reviewed? Yes. Question 2C. Has an RFO been appointed with specific duties? Yes. By the way, I'm in a different tab as I'm reading this, so if anyone wants to say anything, like, speak up, because I can't presently see you. Question 2D. Have items or services above a de minimis amount been competitively purchased? Yes. Question 2E. Has the clerk authority to spend in emergencies subject to subsequent approval by two members from 2 members? The answer is yes.
Chairman, shall I take over for the next section?
That would be helpful, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right. Section 3 questions, they run A to H. But I'll just read out the questions. So the first one is, are payments in the cash book supported by invoices authorised and minuted? Yes. Has VAT on payments been identified, recorded and reclaimed? Yes. Has Section 137 expenditure separately, is Section 137 expenditure separately recorded and within statutory limits? I don't think we have any of that, but the answer is yes. Is Section 137 expenditure separately minuted as such? Again, we don't have any, but it's yes. Is the signing authority 2 or more councillors? Yes. Is the clerk a signatory? There's no to that one. Are the counterfoils initialed by the signatories? Yes. Are invoices vouched to payments? And that's a yes. Question 4, A to C. Is there a procedure in place for the regular audit of internal controls? Yes. Has a member of the committee been appointed internal auditor?
Internal auditor.
Internal auditor. The answer is yes to that.
That struck me as strange as well.
What does that mean?
I don't know. I can check on that one. I was looking at
Could you please query that, because I think that should be a no. I know in some councils they do appoint a councillor to be an internal auditor, but the internal's there twice. So it's a bit odd. Does, and it says she, but I guess it should be gender neutral, have a specific programme, and does he report to meetings? And there's a yes to that one, which again, can you please check, Mrs. Price, because we don't have one. We're not doing that. It may be a specific role that's being carried out collectively by the committee, but I think we just need some clarity on what that means. Councillor Bannister, are you going to go from 5?
Okay, I'll go from 5A to D. Does scanning of the minutes identify any unusual activity? No. Is the annual risk assessment minuted? Yes. Is insurance cover appropriate and adequate? Yes. Are internal financial controls documented and regularly reviewed? Yes. 6A to C. Has the council prepared an annual budget in support of its precept? Yes. Is actual expenditure against budget regularly reported to the council? Yes. Are there any significant unexplained variances from the budget? No.
Shall I resume from 7 then?
Okay.
All right. 7A to D. Is income properly recorded and banked as promptly as possible? Yes. Does the precept recorded in the cash book agree to the district council's notifications? Yes. Where income is raised by rental or letting, has the VAT position been clarified? Yes. Are security controls over cash adequate and effective? Yes. Question 8, A to D. Is petty cash spent, recorded and supported by VAT invoices and receipts? Yes. Is petty cash expenditure reported to each council meeting? Yes. Is petty cash expenditure reimbursed regularly? Yes. Or does the clerk present petty cash with his, that should probably be gender neutral, and present petty cash with his expenses supported by VAT invoices / receipts? Yes.
Okay.
Councillor Hart.
Thank you. Number 9, A to D. Do salaries paid agreed to agree to with those approved by the council? Yes. Has PAYE NIC been properly operated by the council as employer? Yes. Are other payments to the clerk and staff reasonable and approved by the council? Yes. Where PAYE NIC is not operated due to a low salary level, has HMRC been informed that's not applicable? Question 10, A to D. Does the council maintain an asset register of all material assets owned? Yes. Is the register up to date? Yes. Do the values agree to insurance valuations? Yes. Are movements in treasury deposits accurately recorded?
Yes and no,
No.
because we don't have any.
That's because, well, can we have a,
Yeah.
okay, can you query that? Because
Yeah.
if we've suddenly, if not applicable has suddenly
Yeah,
appeared,
yeah, it just seemed very strange.
we might have some not applicables that it's better to put in for clarity than a no. Councillor Bannister.
11, A and B. Is each bank account reconciled on a regular basis? Yes. Are there any unexplained balancing entries in any reconciliation? Yes. Are there any?
Sorry?
Is that right?
That
It says
shouldn't be
here,
right.
are there any unexplained balancing entries in any reconciliation? The answer to that is yes.
Yeah, that should also
query that one.
be really.
Is that correct? Can we query that one?
I'll query it, yeah.
Right.
Okay, 12A to D. Are accounts prepared on the correct accounting basis? Yes. Do the accounts reflect the cash book entries? Yes. Is there an audit trail from the underlying financial records to the accounts? Yes. Where appropriate, have debtors and creditors been properly recorded? Yes. 13A, are minutes signed, initialed, and pages sequentially numbered? Yes. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so 14A and B. Do burial receipts agree to the attendant burial records? Yes. Are rights or permissions properly recorded? Yes. And lastly, 15, any evidence of fraudulent activity should be brought to the attention of the chairman.
That's not really a question.
It's not a question, no.
Yeah, maybe it should say,
are any?
Is there any evidence?
Is it council policy that?
Okay, can we query number 15A then in terms of its wording, please?
Yeah.
Mrs. Price, could you just go through what the question numbers are that we're querying back with the internal auditor?
Yeah, it's 4B, 4C, 10D, 11B, and 15A.
Okay. This is dated 31st of March 2020.
Didn't get it. We didn't get it then.
Okay. When did we have it?
Bear with me. It wasn't the 31st of March. It was in the last 3 weeks. In fact,
Okay. The
In fact, it
auditor's letter says that is
Yeah.
dated the 8th of July.
yeah, that would be about right. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that would be right. It was when I was getting ready to send the agenda papers out. I had to chase him on it.
Okay.
17th of July, did you say? Yeah.
8th of July.
8th would make sense. Yeah.
Okay. Can I ask, has this been checked and reviewed internally by you or the deputy clerk?
Yeah, I've checked the figures. Yeah, they match with what we've got.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to have to turn the page round the other way to look at the next bit.
All right.
Okay. The next important page that we've got is the statement of account, which is on page 834, which shows what against a number of different categories, last year's figures and this year's figures.
Yeah.
Now we've got caught out previously because we haven't given comment on significant differences between those two years' numbers. Mrs. Price, is there any guidance for us on what is considered to be a significant variance? Is there a sort of a percentage that we should be using as a you know, a sort of a guide on this?
I don't think there is actually a percentage. Sometimes you can send it back with no comments and it'll be fine. Another time they will ask. I think it depends on how significant it is when they look at it. But it's only certain boxes. I can check on the website of our external auditors and get guidance from there and make sure that this is all ready for when it goes to full council.
Okay, I think that would be appreciated because rather than going through these numbers now when we haven't necessarily got the detail behind them to discuss the variances, it would be helpful if we had a draft set of comments to come to full council.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I was planning to do.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That would be really helpful.
Yeah.
All right. So with those queries agreed upon for the questions and for the question answers, and
do you want to look at page 845 now, or do you want to leave that for full council?
Let's scrolling.
844 and 845, is that
845?
845. It doesn't seem to be filled in.
Exactly.
Yes. No, there's one that's done by the auditor.
Yeah. This
is that on 844?
Yeah. Yeah, he's done his.
Yeah. And the other one that is done by.
It's done by this committee.
845 is you.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it depends if you want to do it. I think you did it at Finance Committee last year.
We did, and then we proposed it to council.
To full council, yeah.
All right, then let's do that.
Let's answer as many of these as we can. There may be, because of the queries that we've identified, there may be some questions that we have to defer making a recommendation on, but we can certainly do some of these, can't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have put in place arrangements for effective financial management during the year and for the preparation of the accounting statements.
That's a yes.
Yes. We maintained an adequate system of internal control, including measures designed to prevent and detect fraud and corruption, and reviewed its effectiveness. based on the queries we have, well, weren't some of them to do with that sort of safeguard?
I think one of them was.
Yeah, just getting them up. now.
Yeah. So should we perhaps defer this until we have the answers to
Clarity
those
on
queries?
yes,
Yeah.
because there was some ambiguous wording in the auditor's report. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 3, we took all reasonable steps to assure ourselves that there are no matters of actual or potential non-compliance with the laws, regulations, and proper practice that could have significant financial effect on the ability of this authority to conduct its business or manage its finances.
That's a yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the queries have me second guessing everything. We provided the proper opportunity during the year for the exercise of electors' rights in accordance with the requirements of the accounts and audits regulators.
We will be.
Yeah. We carried out an assessment of the risks facing this authority and took appropriate steps to manage those risks, including the introduction of internal controls and/or external insurance cover when required. Yes, we do that every committee meeting. We maintained throughout the year an adequate and effective system of internal audit of the accounting records and control systems.
So yes.
Yes. We took appropriate action on all matters raised in reports from internal and external audit. Yes.
Yes.
Or yes.
We
Go on.
have an outstanding matter to do with the special audit, which we gave assurance to the external auditor previously that we would we'd put in place in order to check our procedures, and we're still outstanding undertaking that. That's an outstanding action from a previous year. But we've been prevented from progressing that by other priorities. So I just flag that to the committee as something which is outstanding that Mrs. Price is aware of, but that doesn't relate to the financial year to which this report applies.
Yeah, I think that's right. That's a special audit, isn't it?
Yeah.
It doesn't actually relate to the usual business of the council.
Yeah, and it also says from internal and external audit. I take that to mean the regular ones. Am I correct?
Yes, but this came out of a previous year's external audit.
I see.
So I think what we need to do is maybe just recognise that is the case. If we're going to answer yes to this, that maybe we note that is in our comments, that we recognise that that's an outstanding action.
Yeah, I think that sounds sensible, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yes, that makes sense. Right, number 8. We considered whether any litigation, liabilities, or commitments, events, or transactions occurring either during or after the year end have a financial impact on this authority, and where appropriate, have included them in the accounting statements. Yes, I think.
Yeah.
Is that a yes, Angie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and number 9 is local authorities only.
Okay, it may be when it comes to the comments, Mrs. Price, that we do need to alert the external auditor to the ongoing Rule 6 action,
Yeah.
which has crossed the financial year boundary. So
Yeah.
some of the costs associated with it are within the financial year
Yeah.
to which this relates, but it is also carrying on after the year end.
Yeah, not a problem.
Thank you.
Right. And that chairman's signature, does that need to be mine or Daniel's? Is this being approved here or at full council?
It will be the mayor.
Okay.
And it's not not applicable for number 9, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. That's
not
fine.
applicable.
Yes. Sorry,
Yes.
I was. I'm just playing catch up on that one. Thank you.
Yeah. Sure. All right. Is everyone happy with the answers we gave there?
Yeah.
I'm happy.
For the moment, we'll see if
Yeah.
we need to change any of them before we get to council.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Page 846, the accounting statement. Any comments on that?
Yeah, I like the total borrowings 0.
Yeah.
So these figures marry up with the ones that we had in the auditor's report earlier. So this is just a handwritten version of the same.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Any further comment or business on that before we receive it and move on?
No, I think we've done as much as we can do on this, and in preparation for sending it to full council.
All right then. Go on.
No, I think there's no votes to be taken on it. I think we've just noted it and made the comments that we have.
Noted. Okay. Item number 11, external and internal audit standing item. Do you have anything on this?
No.
That was it, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Item 12, viaduct inquiry costs, pages 847 through to 849.
You've also got the additional sheet I sent out to everybody today.
Yeah. Hang on, let me just find that. So, an additional 21,000 anticipated against a remaining allocated budget of 12,000. It's clear I think we all agree we need to continue with this. It's clear we need to assign at least up to another 10,000, up to a total of 100,000 to commit to this action. Owing with what Councillor Bannister said earlier in the meeting with regards to it, it could be a little over under 100,000 change. I think it might be prudent to just account for a little over, perhaps 105.
Sorry, Chair. Can I bring to your attention the list of additional costs I forwarded to all of you today?
Yeah.
The very first one for the barrister, there is an unknown element there as well.
Yes. What's?
So we've got his cost for the 4 days in September, but I've been told that there's a potential for some other costs as well, but they can't tell us what they will be.
What?
Nowhere as near as much as the 4 days. It's very small.
Yeah. Okay. did they elaborate on that at all? What those additional?
No.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Well, there's all the more reason to provide yeah, a little just a little over what we're expecting, and if all goes well, then that can go straight back into reserves. If not, then we're covered and don't have to rush to an extraordinary meeting. Are others of the same mind as me on that?
Yes, I think it's sensible.
What are you proposing as a number then, Chairman?
£105,000.
Okay, Mrs. Price, the financial regulations require that we identify where those funds are coming from when we agree a change in the budget line. Are we taking those from general reserves?
Yeah, I think that's this early in the year. That's the only place I can recommend you take them from.
Okay.
If we can find it from somewhere else and jiggle it around a bit, do environments later on in the year and put some back in the reserves, that can be done. But at the moment, I would say reserves.
Okay.
All
And
right.
we have sufficient funds in the reserves to be able to cover that uplift in the budget?
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. I propose that then. Do I find a seconder?
Yes, I'll second it.
All right.
Okay.
Mrs. Price?
Yeah. Councillor Bannister,
Yes.
Councillor Eakin,
Yes.
Councillor Harvey.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on then to item 13, subscriptions, standing item. Do we have anything on that?
No. Nothing.
Right. Item 14, working parties. Now, it's been a consensus in the council as a whole and in working party, the other working party I sit on, that we should be, in light of our reduced committee meeting schedule, we should be increasing the number of working parties to do some of the work that we currently do at these meetings, have fewer meetings but get more substantively done in them. So the two working parties identified already in this item are ICT and GDPR. Is GDPR still?
It's worth having it set up.
Yeah.
In case anything comes up. You may not need to do it any meetings, but it's worth it.
All right.
Can we not hold off on that until we actually, we can set a working party up at any time. I recognise that we're still needing to sort the website out. So the ICT one I can see a point to, but I think with the GDPR it might. Can I propose that we hang fire on that until we have a need to? I'd rather not that we're setting up working parties that aren't going to be working straight away.
Yeah. So as Councillor Harvey said, ICT working party still very much of use. I would also suggest that we could, in the interests of moving some of the duties of this committee to working parties, might I suggest we form I'm not sure what you would call it, but a working party to handle budget environments, not to handle them, but to bring recommendations
You could
to
call
this
that.
committee.
That could be a budget monitoring working party.
Budget monitoring working party, and a grants consideration working party, again to bring considered recommendations to this committee. Does that sound like a good idea to everyone?
Yeah, I mean, it would probably help with the running of these meetings if we took recommendations from a working party on those items rather than dealing with them in the room. And then we can have a concise report that goes along with the underlying information, which can help the committee on the day.
Yeah, and that was my thinking precisely.
Excellent.
And
Great.
I would like to be on both of those. Do we need to take a vote on that?
What, in terms of standing them up?
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
we can do what we want, but I think we need to identify which of the working parties each of us wants to stand on. Can we, recognising that not everybody on the committee is here today, we can revisit the working party membership. But if we can identify which ones we'd like to be on at this point, we've got an early indication of who's doing what.
Yeah. Well, as I said, budget monitoring and grant consideration.
And the ICT.
Yeah.
Got 3.
Yeah. Well, those are 3 weeks. I suppose as chair, I should be on all 3. Yes. All right. Yeah.
Could I go for the ICT and the budget monitoring?
Yep. Anyone for grants?
I'll go for that.
Okay.
Grants consideration. I was on the ICT previously, and I know I've voiced my dismay at where we are with regard to the council website. So I'm happy to sit on that as well.
We will get there, John. We will
I hope
get
so,
there. We
because-
will. Just have faith.
We will. Yeah.
Yeah. Dan will join us in the misery pit.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to sort this out as soon as we possibly can, really.
Definitely.
Our website is pants, let's face it.
Yes, well,
We need to
that's
sort it.
we can do that during August, can't we? While we're all lying with our
Yeah.
feet up.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do quite a few things in August. You're not getting a rest. Sorry.
Dearie me, August's like our platform 9 3/4, isn't it? Right.
Right. In fact, if we're finished with the working parties item, then item 15, risk management, standing item on pages 850 to 856, specifically section 3, other liabilities. Hang on.
Okay, shall we run through these line by line again, just for just for ease? So I'll read the first one out. An identified risk is failure to maintain full document control, and our mitigation for that is primary copies of unsigned documents are held electronically off-site. And secured to backup media within 1 day of creation or amendment, stored at approved off-site location, and a file protocol will be established. Oh, right. Mrs. Price, have we got a file protocol?
That's an interesting one, isn't it? I will have to look at that one. Yeah.
But with that mitigation, the risk is down to a low amber, I think.
Yeah, 3.
Yes, a low amber. So if you could just query what the file protocol is, it may be something that's just used in the office.
Yeah.
Can I just check on that with the amount of home working that's been going on during COVID, that we are still, our staff are still able to follow the document control practices that we've got described here?
Yeah, it is all held on a server off-site, so that's all good. And it is done within 1 day of operation. And it is stored at an appropriate off-site location. Yeah. So, yeah, staff have been provided with secure lockable drawers whilst they're working from home if they didn't have anything that was appropriate. Where possible, I've asked staff to return documents to work if they don't need them. I mean, I haven't physically gone into homes and checked this, but I've got to take some sort of trust from this.
Okay.
All right. So the second one, failure to keep records in accordance with the Data Protection Act. That was previously a red 9, and the mitigation we have put in place for that is a council policy is in place to ensure compliance with the DPA and Freedom of Information Act as appropriate. The policy is administered by the clerk, who will report failings to councillors on operation of the record keeping of the council as soon as possible. Reviewed if there is change in the law or every 3 years, whichever comes sooner. Clerk attends appropriate training. I think clerk should be capitalized there, but otherwise. And it's got it down to a low amber as well.
Okay. Are we content with that, Mrs. Price? Do you feel that there's anything associated with DPA that we need to tighten up on?
No, I think we're good at the moment. I did do, as you know, I did do a number of things when I first came to improve the request side of things. So I think we're good. Yeah. I think the only thing I would say is we could do with some GDPR training, even if it's just refresher training for staff and councillors. So that's on my list to be done at some point.
Are we covering training elsewhere in the agenda?
I don't think it's on the agenda this time. I was thinking about that earlier.
Okay, well,
Not
while
on
we're
here
looking,
this time, but yeah.
while we're looking at risk, could I request that we have a look at what refresher training is appropriate for new chairs and you know, particularly finance committee members?
Yeah, I've actually contacted about this today. I just need dates of when people will be available in the evenings next month for some chairman's training, finance training, and possibly some HR training.
Yeah.
Oh, blimey.
Councillor Bannister's up for that.
It would be useful.
Okay, next one then.
GDPR rule changes. Mitigation is staff and councillors receive available training.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Have there been any recent changes?
No. Not that I'm aware of, but I can always check that. I will check it. But as far as I'm aware, we would have been told if there had been.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I can think of that's happened, you know, since COVID is the contact details for people who are volunteering. And there's been a massive and fantastic volunteer response to, you know, in Ledbury and everywhere to the pandemic and you know, the support that people have needed in their own homes. Just wanting to check that, where the council has retained people's contact information for, the best reasons in terms of maintaining, being in touch with the network and all the rest of it, that we are following the GDPR rules on that. And I'm aware that at county level there was notification of some sort of special allowance that was made for handling contact information during coronavirus. So if any of that applies to us, can we just make sure that we're aware of it and complying with it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Right. The next one, Councillor Bannister, would you like to read this out?
Okay, failure to respond to Data Protection, Freedom of Information Act disclosure requests is required by law. Risk owner, that's the clerk. So we've got a fairly high risk on this one before we look at mitigation. In particular, yeah, risk is quite high. A council policy is in place to ensure compliance with the DPA or FOIA as appropriate. The policy is administered by the clerk, who will report any failings to councillors on operation of the record keeping of the council as soon as possible. Reviewed if there is any change in law, or every 3 years, whichever is the sooner. Clerk attends appropriate training, adequate staffing available.
Okay.
And that reduces the risk level right down to an amber. So it's pretty much the mitigation there is pretty much the same as in failure to keep records. So, which is a pretty much similar thing.
Yeah. It was.
Okay. So the final one, insufficient insurance
On this
cover,
page.
On this page, final on this page, insufficient insurance cover for any aspect of council responsibilities. This is a bit concerning because we've still got some red on this one after the mitigation. So all appropriate insurances are in place. This is maintained in the council office, covering policies, types and amounts, annual review in F and GP, up-to-date valuations. So why we've still got some red on this one.
Yes,
I mean,
I'm a little. I mean, given that we've had some good feedback from the internal auditor that the feeling is that we're on top of this. So I would be happy for us to be proposing that we've got.
I think
that we reduce the impact.
Definitely.
Figure on that down, so that we've got a lower overall risk. I think I'd like to propose that went to a 2.
Yes, I'm from the chair. I'm happy to second that.
Okay. Then that I think would more accurately reflect our current position. That might not have been our historical position, but I think our current position is better than it was.
Do we need a vote on that, or
Mrs. Price?
No, I think that's okay.
Okay, we just make
All
the change.
Yeah.
Yes.
Shall I carry on?
I'm happy to continue with.
Okay, carry on then.
Long-term unavailability of the clerk or loss of the clerk without a period of notice. That is owned by the standing committee.
Oh, I think you've got.
I think you might have jumped.
Yeah.
No.
You should be on page 852.
Oh, right.
It should start individual.
I see what's. Yeah, I see what's. Yeah. Okay. my having to read the document this way when it's a PDF disoriented me a bit. Individual councillors fail to maintain a full and accurate registers of interests. That is a risk owned by councillors. It was, I mean, we're already, within safe bounds on this before mitigation, and the mitigation we have undertaken. Register of interest forms are provided to councillors by the clerk upon first appointment to the council. Completed forms are returned to the clerk and the appropriate registers maintained. Councillors are reminded annually by the clerk of the duty of councillors to update. This is a criminal offence with the impact on the councillor, not the council. Council would have to elect a new councillor in worst case. That risk is reduced to a 1. Would someone else like to take over for the next one?
Okay.
Or shall I?
Slander and or libel by a councillor, and that's a risk that's held by councillors. Before mitigation, it's assessed as being a level 3. The mitigation is councillors are personally responsible for their own actions and covered by the Code of Conduct and the Nolan Principles. I think it would be worthwhile maybe adding that councillors do receive training on becoming a councillor and refresher training, which assists in reminding us all of our responsibilities in that respect. Because I think that is an extra thing that helps to keep the risk down. The mitigated risk remains at a 3. I don't know what committee members feel about adding the training in, reducing the probability of that by 1 perhaps to a 2, but I think ultimately it's down to everybody to police their own behaviour and also think before they speak.
Yeah. Avoid foot in mouth as much as possible.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, the next one is slander and or libel by a member of staff, and that's a council owned risk. Pre-mitigation, it's at a 6 on red. The mitigation is staff are covered by the town council's liability insurance and employment conditions and staff training and health and safety policies.
I'm not sure that actually counts as a mitigation, does it?
Well, again, I think we just have to. I mean, presumably, this is in terms of speaking on behalf of the council.
Right.
So don't put anything libelous into an official statement.
Yeah, well, I mean, seeing as we now got a more active Facebook account than we've had previously, and we have a sort of a press and media policy which gives clear instruction in terms of how statements made on behalf of the council are to be released. We could add the existence of the policy into the mitigation. I guess the question is really whether we give our staff the necessary training,
yeah.
and we have the controls in place to make sure that members of staff don't place things on the town council's website or social media account without having received the necessary training on and that they're cognizant of the any guidance and the policy that we have. Mrs. Price, have you got any comment to make on that? Do we need to tighten up in this area?
it's always good to tighten up. There is a policy on the agenda later that will cover some of this as well. So we are still tightening it up as we go.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Could we add about our press and social media policy
yeah, I've
in
already
there?
written that in there. Yeah.
And to say that we, you know, only designated members of staff have access
Yeah.
to, you know, to update website and social media accounts.
Yeah. Got notes
But
about all of that.
Okay, I don't think it's unreasonable that we have it under mitigation down at a sort of green 2, but I think it's good that we've got those extra comments in there.
Yeah, I think with those extra comments, I would be happy with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got one on here to do with the judicial review. The final one in this section: failure to claim back judicial review costs. That's very specific to one particular instance. It was clearly relevant at a moment in time. That was Ledbury Town Council. The mitigation on that was plan to maintain reserves with increases to the precept and investigation of cost reclamation. Now, the judicial review is history. I think, is there a more generic line that we should have in here regarding our you know, exceptional costs and how we sort of manage and mitigate them?
Yes, I think that's right. And it's particularly relevant to the Rule 6 action.
Yeah,
probably.
The thing is, if we could put, I mean,
something generic in there.
Yeah, I just wonder, Mrs. Price, I mean, this is a live document, the risk register. It's appropriate to have specific, you know, risks relating to particular things that we do know about. It might be better to have them in a separate section, maybe, rather than lumped into other liabilities, because there may be going to be things that change more frequently than some of the other risks that we've got on the register here.
Just have like an extraordinary liabilities category.
Yeah, or you know, current risks or transitory risks or something. But is there something more general that we also need to put in here to do with you know, how we respond to exceptional costs being incurred? Could you just, before we put anything in there, could we maybe leave that as a question, because there's other sections of the risk register which I'm really not keen to go through tonight, which might actually cover off on this, to do with how we deal with you know, sort of the finances side of things.
Yeah, I can review that and come back with something.
Okay, but I would suggest that this specific one is no longer relevant.
Yep.
All right. If we are finished there, item 16, council policies. We've got 3 policies for consideration. 3 policy drafts. The draft information communication and ICT policy. The draft event and cash handling policy, and the draft sickness and absence policy, which is not in our pack but was to follow.
Okay.
Do we?
It was sent to you today.
Okay. No,
yesterday.
Yeah. I'm afraid I have to stick my hand up and say I haven't had time to read that one. So could I propose that one is deferred to the next meeting? I don't know whether other committee members have had a chance to look at that in detail, but I absolutely haven't today.
I also didn't, so we'll defer that to next time.
Okay.
As for the other 2, I don't really know what to say other than they seem sensible, and I'm happy to adopt them.
Okay, I think what I would say is, in the light of the risk register that we've just reviewed, it might also be worth, under the sort of libel and slander, to reference the ICT
Hmm.
procedure as well as the one that we've
Yeah.
got on media and comms.
Hmm.
But yes, I think this is you know, a good start. I think what I would say generally for our procedures is that, you know, and maybe this is me just being, you know, going back to my sort of work experience, but I quite like numbered paragraphs.
All right, okay.
Because it's
I'll bear that in mind.
yeah, because it's just easy
Yeah.
to
Easy to
be
reference.
able to yeah. So
Yeah.
if it's possible to do that, not urgent, but you know, if we can get a template together that automatically gives numbering, then that would be helpful, I think, for the future. But I'm not fussed about getting that sorted for this one.
I'd also appreciate that.
Okay.
Right. Does anyone else have any comments about these two policies?
Henri?
I think have we got covered under the email section that personal emails are also subject to freedom of information?
Oh, I don't know. Hang on.
I couldn't see it.
No, I don't
but
think I have.
But it definitely says that. It definitely highlights that in the transparency code, I think, or
Right.
and there have been examples in other parts of the country where councillors' email accounts have been subject to FOI. They're private ones.
Okay, I'll add that in.
All right. From the chair, I would like to propose that we adopt the draft information, communication, and ICT policy as amended.
Okay. Seconded.
Okay, so Councillor Bannister,
Okay. Yes.
Councillor Eakin,
Yes.
and Councillor Harvey.
Yes.
Thank you.
And again, from the chair, I would like to propose that the draft event cash handling policy is adopted.
Okay, Councillor Bannister,
Yes.
Councillor Eakin,
Yes.
and Councillor Harvey.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right then, moving on to item 17, to receive updates on the progress of ICT managed system project, if any.
Can I suggest that this is a bit misleading, number 17. It says
Yeah.
to receive update on progress.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
I think this shouldn't have been that. I think we need to change that. This was a standing item. I think that needs to change to website, really.
All right.
Yeah, it
The
should be
ICT
website. Yeah.
Yeah, because the
Let's do
ICT
that,
managed
yeah.
system is in place now and it's operating.
All right then, let's change that to website for future
Yeah, sorry,
agendas.
I did take that to mean website, sorry.
Yeah. Well, is there any update on the progress of the website?
No,
No.
it's
No.
as clear as
All right.
that. I am hoping to contact them next week before full council and be able to provide an update at full council.
All right then. Item 18, general data protection regulations, standing item. Do we have anything on that?
No.
All right. Item 19, provision of tablets to councillors. Provision of tablets for councillors. Verbal report.
Yeah.
This is not medication. This is IT equipment, isn't it?
Oh, you beat me to that one, Liz.
Depending on the tablets, it could make these meetings more fun.
Basically, this is in relation to electronic tablets for councillors. But as we are now holding our meetings via Zoom, not all councillors have the best equipment to be able to, although they are all taking part, we do have some councillors who are doing it on their phone, which is quite difficult. They haven't got the full screen. So I wanted to propose that any councillor that needs a tablet for assistance, that council would approve this. It can be available to all councillors if they wish. Councillor Harvey.
Councillor Harvey, go ahead.
My experience at county level, what happens is at the beginning of a 4-year term in office, all councillors are provided with a laptop with the up-to-date software and all of the security measures on it to make sure that they can do their function effectively as a councillor and connect with the county council system. I know at a parish level that's less of an issue. However, I do recognise that it's hugely helpful for councillors to be on a par in terms of both our ability to use IT equipment and also to have a common base level of functionality. And so I think from an equalities point of view, and also in terms of enabling the functioning of the effective functioning of the council, it's something that we ought to consider having available to offer councillors, new councillors, and existing councillors. I query whether we should jump to the solution of a tablet as being the preferred solution, simply because and everybody's got their own way of using IT equipment. I find that internal mouse pads quite difficult to work with, so even though I've got an internal mouse pad and a touch screen, I find that an external mouse is actually really helpful to me in being able to operate the equipment quickly, slickly, while I'm doing meetings, particularly online, where we're shifting between windows and have got multiple documents open at the same time. And we've heard from the chairman this evening that the logistical difficulties that can occur with tablets when you flip between different pieces of software, being in the active window. So I think that's all I would say, that providing appropriate IT equipment for councillors is good, and I think obviously we should put some kind of a specification or a ceiling together so that we know it's not a an open-ended offer to get yourself out with all the IT equipment that's available. It is what's we should have some kind of a recipe that's necessary to do the job. But I support the principle of this.
Yeah, I agree. I think a Windows 10 laptop is pretty good enough for anything. And in fact, you could even go for refurbished Windows 10 laptops. You can get those for 200 quid, less than 200 quid.
Yeah, I don't think any of us are going to push the performance limits of any of the software that we use, are we?
No, I don't think so.
Maybe it's a job for the ICT working group to put some sort of a specification together, or a couple of options, and see you know, along with putting noses back on the grindstone of the website.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
We get a meeting,
Very good
a
idea.
meeting in the diary.
Yeah.
You'll be bombarded with emails next week.
Lovely, thank you.
All right. So we're deferring this item pending the conclusions of the ICT working party.
Well, I think if we
All
just sort of lob it in the, just put it to the working group to look at it in more
Yeah.
detail in consultation
Yeah.
with the clerk.
Yeah.
All right. All right then. Right. Item 20, date of next meeting. The next date of the Finance and General Purposes Committee will be.
No, ignore that. Yeah.
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. I
Will
was
be- will be
confused,
the
but
third. Yeah.
yeah, it will be the 30th of September 2020. And now item 21, virtual exclusion of the press and public. Do I need to read the whole thing, or
You
shall
do.
we just? All
No,
right,
you
all
do.
right, all right. I do. In accordance with section 1.2 of the Public Bodies Admissions to Meetings Act 1960, in view of the confidential nature of business about to be transacted, it is advisable in the public interests that the press and public are excluded from the remainder of the meeting.
And we need to take a vote on that.
I propose we exclude those watching the stream.
Seconder?
Go on then. I'll second it.
All in favour?
It is a bit tough when it's
Yeah,
not entirely clear
it's-
what the issue is, but it looks like it's a financial matter. So I'm prepared
Yeah.
to support that until we understand more about it.
It is a bit difficult. You're right, Liz, because how can it be in the interest, in the public interest, to exclude the public? To me, that doesn't make sense. But there we are. It's a law.
All will come clear, I promise.
Okay.
Okay.
So all in agreement? Everybody in agreement?
Yes.
Councillor
Yes.
Harvey?
Can you see everybody? Yes.
Yeah, I can
I'm
see
voting
everybody.
for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, thank you.
Reluctantly. Okay.
Thank you. So I will end this meeting and you can enter into the new one.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. See you all on
See
the
you
other
on
side.
the other side. Yeah.